Man United make it 4 in a row, beating Spurs 2-0. Arsenal beat Sunderland 3-0, and Man City completed a late comeback in what was a controversial ending to the Super Sunday fixture against Liverpool. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is time for Week 26 Premier League predictions, and last week was awesome. In fact, take a look at what I said in the Full 90 live show on Friday about the Premier League.
But I think it's going to be a really exciting weekend. And to be honest, these are all single selections. But because I've been so conservative, I almost like this as like a 25-1 Premier League ACCA for the weekend. Man United not to lose and under 5 goals. Fairly likely, 1.5. Arsenal to win and under 3.5 goals. I think most people think that's going to happen. That one is the least likely to happen because it could be, could be over. But there we go. I think that's pretty decent. It keeps on 1-2, 3-0 and 2-1. Bournemouth, Villa, both teams to score I like. West Ham draw no bet. I just don't see Burnley winning. Chelsea to win. I think that's a really great pick. And then goals for Liverpool, City, Newcastle, Brentford. I think that's really good.
So whilst I do offer extra content on Patreon, that was free. The Friday live show is free. All the videos on this channel are free. So if you like your football content, please do drop a like and subscribe. Like I said, that is free and you get all sorts of content pretty much every single day on the road to 60,000 subscribers. I want to give a quick but massive shout out to Yarmakin, who has edited their membership and bought the whole year of the Patreon in one go. And after that, they then messaged me saying they wanted to slowly build their bankroll with a couple of picks a month. Here's the conversation. They asked me for a pick to double their money. I said Chelsea to win and Barcelona and over 1.5 goals. And of course, that absolutely flew in. But we'll talk more about the Patreon later. Let's get into the Premier League fixtures this midweek. The first game, we travel to Stamford Bridge for Chelsea up against Leeds. Now, we actually tipped Leeds to win at 2.2 last week against Nottingham Forest, and they won 3-1. I said 2-1. It was close enough. And with Chelsea, we said that was our tip of the week, Chelsea to win at 1.66. They did win by 2 goals as we predicted. So pretty good last week for not only Leeds and Chelsea, but honestly, a lot of the teams. But this game, I think, is going to be a very, very exciting one. Now, when these two last met a couple of months ago at Elland Road, Leeds went and won 3-1. Now, I have to say, my goodness, Maresca was doing all sorts of weird stuff with the Chelsea team back then. It was a midweek game again, and obviously we know Leeds at Elland Road in night fixtures have an incredible record. I don't think they've lost a night fixture for a few years now, obviously beating Nottingham Forest as well in a night fixture. But Chelsea fielded a very weak team. As soon as they dropped the lineups for that game, I knew Chelsea would lose. The same will not be said here. It's a different manager. They're on a good run of form. I think Chelsea are going to win, and I'm going to go for the reverse scoreline of when they met in December. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Chelsea. And in 5 of the last 6 meetings between Chelsea and Leeds, one of the two teams has scored exactly 3 goals. Leeds twice, Chelsea a few times. So I think it's going to happen again. The tip to improve the odds of a Chelsea win is just going to be Chelsea to win and over 1.5 goals at odds of 1.72. I initially thought over 2.5 goals, but these odds are higher and I don't really see Chelsea dropping points here. After this, we travel to the Hill Dickinson Stadium for Everton up against Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth, I did predict they would beat Aston Villa 2-1 last week, but I tipped both teams to score. And, well, first of all, Bournemouth did score a second goal, but it got disallowed. Bournemouth were very unlucky not to win that game. The XG was about 2.5 to 0.5, and whilst that's not everything, and what is really important is what actually goes in, but it tells the tale of the game. Bournemouth were far better than Aston Villa, who have been quite depleted. Everton, on the other hand, they're a bit of a tricky team to predict. They go away to Craven Cottage, a very tricky place to go, and get a 2-1 win. Again, luckily, I went for both teams to score at 1.95, even highlighted that maybe over 2.5 goals at 2.2 was a good pick, but this is quite a tricky one. Of the last few meetings between Everton and Bournemouth, the away side has actually won, but I don't know if I'm going to go as far as to say that Bournemouth will win this one. But like I said, Everton have been picking up some funny results, winning away at Craven Cottage, winning away at Villa Park. It's a bit of a tough one, so I'm going to sit on the fence. I think a lot of people will with this fixture, and I think a lot of people will say the same scoreline. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, but the tip is both teams to score at 1.66. After this, we travel to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for Tottenham up against Newcastle. Now, this is one of the trickiest games to predict. It really, really is. I have no idea which way it's going to go. Newcastle are really struggling. They lost at St. James's Park to Brentford. Tottenham, they lost to Man United, as I predicted. And it's funny, I said under 3.5 goals at pretty good odds. And everyone was saying there'd be a lot more goals than that and that Tottenham would definitely score. And there was one comment that said, as a result of the red card that Tottenham got, I was going to get the 1-0. Obviously, they commented this when it was 1-0. It ended 2-0. But in my personal opinion, as soon as Tottenham got that red card in the first half, I thought, well, there goes the 1-0 prediction. I knew Man United would score more than one. I think 1-0 to Man United would have happened if it remained 11 versus 11, because United were on top. United are better than Spurs, but with the disadvantage for Tottenham, it became that much easier for Man United. So I think that was a very, very good prediction. But this one, I literally don't know. I don't know. So I'm going to go down the middle and say it'll be a 2-2 draw. And the tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.61 because I think that's very, very likely. Tottenham conceded 2. Newcastle conceded 3 in the previous game week. So I think goals are likely. But in terms of an outcome, I just have to say I literally do not know. Now, after this, we have an absolutely massive game. It's at the London Stadium and it's between West Ham and Manchester United. But real quick, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Patreon because here are the winning accumulators we had since that Premier League video on Thursday. Now, the top one wasn't on Patreon. That was actually free over on the Friday live show. The reason I include this in the winning accuracies is because I literally said in the live stream that I like it as an accumulator, which I obviously don't normally say because normally there's a lot more picks and everything like that, but 25-1 there. We also had exclusively on Patreon the Premier League high odds 4-fold with Man United and under 4.5 goals, Arsenal under 3.5, Bournemouth double chance of both teams to score, see back in Bournemouth there, and Chelsea to beat Wolves. I don't know why the odds were the way they were, but they were. And then of course we go to other leagues as well, both teams to score. Genoa Napoli 2.25. Why were the odds that high? Genoa just keep on scoring. We even had the Saudi Pro League treble, the 1-0 treble, which was a double in the end because Vallecano got postponed. But you can pause and take a look at the rest there. And if we scroll down past all of the correct scores, here is the current record for the Patreon. So flashing up on the screen, all of the people that are supporting me over there. If you want a shout out in every single video, access to exclusive members tips and accumulators, as well as giveaways. Obviously, Luke Speck was the recent winner of $100 over on the Patreon. You get my league and predictions, direct messaging access to me and the group chats. All you need to do, if you want all of that, like I said, is click the Patreon link in the description. Head to patreon.com/thefull90. Click join and you get everything that I just listed. And similarly, if you don't want to join the Patreon, you don't want to pay, there's plenty of free content here on YouTube as well. So all I ask is that you subscribe because that is, of course, free. But we move back now to West Ham up against Manchester United. Now, this was one of the trickiest ones to predict this game week. Before Man United played Tottenham, I had a real feeling in my gut. Obviously, we know why this is perhaps bigger than it normally would be, is because this is potentially Man United's 5th win in a row and the United strand can cut his hair. Whilst it's just a little gimmick, it's a nice thing to raise money for charity. It has garnered a lot of attention and a lot of hype. Now, I had a feeling when Man United beat Fulham 3-2, as I predicted, that Man United would have no problem beating Spurs, but would then draw against West Ham. And since then, I haven't really seen anything to convince me otherwise. Now, first of all, there is someone in the comments who commented on the last video saying, haha, you got Man United wrong again. You keep predicting them to lose because you're biased. Now, all they did is look at the thumbnail where I put Man United to lose to get people to watch the video and didn't actually watch the video. I said Man United would beat Fulham. I said Man United would beat Spurs. They didn't even care to watch my prediction before they left that stupid comment. However, this one is really, really tricky. I had a feeling United would beat Spurs and drop points to West Ham. Then part of me is like, well, Man United are a better team than West Ham. They have a better squad than West Ham. But in recent history, that also hasn't helped them because the last 6 league games between West Ham and Manchester United, West Ham have won 4. There's been 1 draw and Man United have won once, and you'd have to go back 12 meetings between the two of them to get Man United's last away win against West Ham, which was all the way back in 2021. So my gut feeling was kind of right, at least recently, that Man United have not had a good time against West Ham. Now, I initially put 2-1 to Man United. I think it would be great if they could get that 5th win, the haircut happens, all of that stuff. But also, I just can't look past a draw because West Ham, they've been playing okay. They threw it away a little bit against Chelsea with their 2-goal lead. They beat Burnley 2-0, as we said they would. So I'm going to sit on the fence and say a 1-1 draw. The tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.57, and that doesn't change whether it's a 1-1 draw or a 2-1 win to Man United. If I had to pick a winner, I would go United, and I say this with caution. My first prediction that I wrote down was 2-1 to Man United, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to be brave. I think Man United should win, but I'm going to be brave and say a 1-1 draw. But after this, it doesn't stop there because we travel to Villa Park for Aston Villa up against Brighton. Now, Brighton had the Super Sunday fixture, the M23 derby against Palace, and kind of whimpered to a 1-0 loss. It was very, very disappointing, and Aston Villa defied the XG odds again and managed to get a point away against Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium. This is a really tricky one because Aston Villa have been massively overperforming their XG, and I think Brighton have actually gone under the radar. They've been really underperforming expectations, to say the very least, and I actually think they're going to lose this one again. I think at Villa Park, even though Aston Villa have absentees, I think Aston Villa can get a win here. I'm going to say a 2-0. But the tip, I really, really like the odds, and it allows for a very likely, in my opinion, potential low-scoring draw. The tip is Aston Villa double chance and under 3.5 goals. That gets you odds of 1.8. I think that's really, really good. After this, we travel to Selhurst Park for Crystal Palace up against Burnley. Palace getting their first win, as I said, against Brighton. Their first win in a long, long time. And Burnley, well, they all but sealed their relegation with that loss to West Ham. They are a long way behind the Hammers. They're going down, and this is not going to be easy. Selhurst Park, even with Palace in a bad run of form, it's not an easy place to go, and Palace are just better than Burnley. Palace have also won all of the last 3 meetings with Burnley 2-0 with an aggregate scoreline of 6-0. So I'm going to go for another low-scoring Crystal Palace win, a 1-0, and the tip is Crystal Palace to win at odds of 1.57. Quite low, but I just don't see Burnley getting anything once again. After this, we travel to the Etihad Stadium for Manchester City up against Fulham. Now, we all remember the crazy 5-4 game earlier on this season. Man City were, 3 or 4 goals ahead, and Fulham scored 3 to come back and give Man City a real scare. Now, obviously, City will be on cloud 9 after keeping the title race alive, a lot of people are saying. I think, to be fair, as an Arsenal fan, when Szoboszlai scored that free kick, I thought if this stays a Liverpool win, I think that seals the league for Arsenal. But the comeback for Manchester City, the 2-1 win, makes the title race, it's still on. Obviously, it's in Arsenal's hands, but it's still very much on. I will touch on the refereeing decision very briefly. It's one of those where, letter of the law, technically speaking, they made the right call. But I think common sense suggested that they should have just let the goal go in. I think Man City would have preferred the goal to go in. Liverpool, I don't know about the goal, but they would have rather Szoboszlai not got sent off. But it was a really weird one because as soon as you watch the goal, you think that has to be disallowed. You can't just ignore both fouls and let the ball go in and say the 2 fouls cancel each other out. Because if that happens outfield in the game normally, you don't just say 2 wrongs make a right and cancel out both fouls. Not when they're as blatant as that. So, yeah, I think by letter of the law, the right call was made. But I think all football fans wanted that goal to stand. And, hopefully Arsenal win the league by 1 goal difference. And we can look back at that and it becomes really controversial. But with this game, I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. Fulham look good. They look decent against Manchester United. Obviously, losing to Everton was a bit of a shock. But I think they're going to score a couple of goals in this one. I'm going to go for a Manchester City 3-2 win. And the tip is Man City and both teams to score at 2.75. And a crazy statistic that I uncovered was that the last 4 times Fulham have travelled to the Etihad, Man City have won with both teams scoring. That is a really strange trend that there was not another result, not a win to nil. It was always Fulham score at the Etihad. That's what they do, but Manchester City get the win. And I can see why. I think it's written on for this one, and at odds of 2.75, I think that's very, very good. After this, we're going to travel to the City ground for Nottingham Forest up against Wolves. Nottingham Forest, I have to say, they can count themselves a little bit lucky that they're not in the relegation zone instead of West Ham, in the sense that when Forest played West Ham and won 2-1, I think West Ham deserved to win that game and they were robbed a little bit. And obviously, if West Ham won that game, the 3 points that Forest got are given straight to West Ham and they literally swap positions and points. So Forest need to be careful here. If they drop points here, I would argue that that could get them relegated. They can't lose to a team like Wolves that's down and out. They could. It's well within their capabilities. But I just think Forest have a good enough team to win this game. Whilst I predicted they'd lose to Leeds, and they did, they need to win this one. They've won the last 2 meetings against Wolves 2-0, and Wolves obviously haven't won a game away from home all season. So I'm going to go for a Nottingham Forest 2-1 win. And the tip is Nottingham Forest to win at 1.7. It is so important. It is a must win. And like I said, if they lose, and if West Ham win, for example, they're in the relegation zone already, and they really could seal their fate with a loss here. So they need a win, and I think they will get it. Now, after this, we travel to the Stadium of Light for a massive game. It's Sunderland up against Liverpool. Now, again, much like West Ham and Man United, I was very torn on this one. I thought about a draw. I thought about a Liverpool win. Because forgetting everything, on paper, Liverpool are a better team. They're having a better season, perhaps not in terms of expectations, but literally speaking, they're having a better season, as you'd expect, because they are levels above Sunderland. But Sunderland are unbeaten at home. And that has almost played into my prediction in the sense that I don't see how Sunderland can go an entire season unbeaten at home. So with that logic, whether it's this week or another week, a loss is coming. So I'm just going to say that it'll be now. I think Liverpool will need to bounce back from that loss against Man City because they looked on top of the world. When they were 1-0 up, they were buzzing, and then they just threw it away. And I think that will play into this game here. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Liverpool win. And the tip is going to be Liverpool to win at 1.72, which I think the odds are quite low because Sunderland are unbeaten at home. But like I said, and I did think about a 1-1 draw, I just don't see how Sunderland go unbeaten at home all season. So with that logic, a loss is coming. So I'll go for a Liverpool win. Feel free to disagree with me. It'd be funny. I'd like Sunderland to win, but I'm just going to go for the Reds to bounce back from their defeat to Manchester City. Now, after this, there are 2 games that I'm going to predict. There's the game between Brentford and Arsenal, and then a later game before the next game week, about a week later, which is Wolves and Arsenal. So 2 Arsenal games to end the video. Brentford got an incredible win away against Newcastle. I actually had a change of heart in the video. I said Newcastle would win, but on the day, this is one of the advantages of the Patreon. I have more up-to-date information, and if I change my mind, I can let you know on Patreon. I actually tipped on Patreon Brentford to win at 3.6. So that is the kind of thing you can get, just more up-to-date information, because when presented with new information, I'm well within my rights, and I should be open to changing my mind if necessary. This one, however, I think Arsenal win. We said Arsenal would beat Sunderland 2-0, and I'm going to go for Arsenal to win 2-0 again. I thought about maybe a 3-1 Arsenal, but I think it's just going to be fairly convincing. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win, and the tip is Arsenal to win at 1.66. We now jump ahead to the 18th of February for Wolverhampton Wanderers against Arsenal at Molineux. Again, I think this is going to be like the Brentford game, like the Sunderland game. I think it's going to be an easy win. So I'm going to go for an Arsenal 3-0 win. And I'm actually going to tip Arsenal -1 handicap at 1.95. I think they win comfortably. They don't have to worry about, Champions League just yet. I believe they would have played the FA Cup against Wigan, but they're going to win that anyway. And obviously the League Cup is in March. So it's all focus on the league at this point against Wolves. And I think they're going to get the job done quite comfortably. 3 goals to 0. So that does it for my week 26 Premier League predictions. If you did enjoy, please do drop a like and subscribe, and please leave your predictions down in the comments. There's a lot that I could even disagree with myself on here. I went for a draw between Spurs and Newcastle. That could go either way. West Ham, Man United. That could genuinely be all 3 results. Sunderland, Liverpool. That could be all 3 results as well. So please do, especially if you disagree, be respectful, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. But that is going to do it from me, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.